Hi there, welcome back to Palimpsest Live. I am on my own today because today we are rebroadcasting the interview I did with the lovely Kate Taylor at the end of June. So if you want to follow Kate, she does these interviews every week on Thursday morning. So you definitely should check that out because they're really, really awesome. She can be found on Instagram at Kate Taylor Art. So go there and give her a follow and check out the other interviews she did with other artists. Um, and then next week we will be back with a regular scheduled episode. We will have some unboxings to do and some other cool stuff to talk about. I will tell you more about that at the end of this broadcast. But for now, let's get to the interview I had with the amazing Kate. And I hope you enjoy.
Hey, good morning, and welcome to episode 98 of Talking to Artists. So we had a little bit of a change of schedule because Julie was not able to make today. She's got a ton of shows coming up, and this just added one more level of stress to her plate. So that was not the point at all. So a couple of super exciting things I wanted to share with you. So first of all, this is my 98th episode of Talking to Artists. So that is pretty incredible. I never thought I would get beyond about 10. So that's kind of awesome. And it would really help me out if you guys can go to my YouTube site, which is youtube.com/Kate Taylor Art, and follow me, subscribe to Talking to Artists, share it with your friends. I am on anywhere you can get your podcasts as well. So look at Talking to Artists. And that will really help me get the word out. I get so many people who say they love these interviews. They learn so much from each artist. Every artist I've interviewed has been so generous in sharing their ideas and their thoughts, and just really want more people to kind of know about it. So if you can help me out, that would be great. So coming up for my 100th episode, I was trying to figure out what to do that might be kind of fun and special. And I think I'm going to kind of keep it open. I get calls on a regular basis asking questions or advice or thoughts about kind of marketing or how to build your career, things like that. So I thought what I would do for the 100th episode is keep it open, ask me anything. I will share the knowledge that I have. If I don't have it, I will probably direct you to some of the other 99 episodes where other artists have had so much awesome advice to give. Next weekend, next year is 99. Next week is number 99 with Ross Buisman, and he's the last artist that is part of this Alliance collaboration. So that will be kind of interesting to kind of get that sort of all tightened together. And you probably have started to see a lot of posts of other artists that are abstract artists on my feed. So I'm the headliner of the Square Foot Show, Julie Veenstra's Square Foot Show, that's happening in August 11th. I am really, really excited about it. The art is awesome. I'm so excited. And so watch my feed. I will be posting photos and videos and reels of some of the artists that are participating. I also have a highlights, which is a Square Foot Show. So those will also be some of the highlights, so you can go and check it out. But if you want to get a preview, you're going to have to go to squarefoot.com and sign up for their mailing list, which means 48 hours ahead of time, you get the preview. Okay, now, super excited to talk to Denise Buisman Pilger. I interviewed her back in episode 65. So she talked a lot about her trip to Japan. And so we will kind of continue that conversation. And she's transitioned from Japan and kind of continuing to capture those memories. So let me bring her right on, because I believe that she has already requested. Because I didn't get to talk to her much at the Artist Project, which is usually where I kind of do all my reconnecting with all my friends. Hello.
Hi. Nice to see you
So,
again.
yeah, great to see you again too. I'm really excited. It's funny because I went by your booth at the Artist Project 1,000 times, but you were always super busy with clients, which is awesome, exactly as it should be. Yeah. It seems like so long ago now, though.
I know, it seems like forever.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm back at the cottage now too, which is just awesome because it's just like, whew, everything's calm. So I didn't really give you much of an introduction. I'm sorry about that. But obviously you are a kind of a photo-based painter, I guess, maybe mixed media, photography. Interesting to me that you always refer to yourself as a painter, but your work is so very much based on the photographs you take when you travel. But
Yeah, but I always, because people ask me about that often, and I consider myself first and foremost to be a painter. And I sort of
call it, like I paint with memories, sort of like these photos are little memories, and they come together as sort of a composition, but they're only the underlayer, because after my photos are on there, every inch of the panel is touched by paint. So I would first and foremost call myself a painter.
Well, that's cool. And well, and let's talk about that. I love that kind of painting with memories and the whole concept that also creates a bridge, kind of a culture to break down those cultural and language barriers. Like it sort of talks on its own. There's a lot of elements within your work that can really speak to a lot of different people in different ways. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
That they do. It's funny because when I sell my work, I would kind of expect it to sell to people who are familiar with the place that is represented, but that's not always the case. Like people
Hmm.
have such different reactions. I have a collector in Toronto who collects two of my pieces from Holland, and he's never been there. So, but often it does happen that it's like people will look at my work and they will see a painting and they'll be like, "That looks familiar. I know this, but it's not quite the same as it is in real life." They're like, that's Toronto, but it's not, because all my it's like a jumbled up version of the city, right? It's elements from all over. So I first and
Right.
foremost want to give people like a little scene, like a little impression of my visit to that place.
Yep. And it's interesting too, because last time we chatted was quite a while ago. And it was really, we talked a lot about kind of Japan and your recent, spending a lot of time in Japan and stuff. And it's interesting because I see now the work is transitioning a bit more to kind of Toronto and Montreal. And I don't remember seeing as many also of the Netherlands either. Is that just kind of a natural
Um,
progression of the next steps?
I've been working the past 2 years. I've mostly produced Japan themed work, just because I really had a very strong need to sort of be back there, and I really, really missed it. I think it also was partially because of the pandemic that everything here was locked down. And when I moved back from Japan to Canada, I was really looking forward to coming back to a place where I knew the rules. And then I came back here and all the rules had changed. So
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's tough.
yeah, so it was really difficult adjusting back. It sort of felt like I was moving backwards instead of forwards, because everything sort of became really, really tiny and really, really small. And
I guess that must have been especially weird because obviously I'm assuming that if you're going to travel to a place like Japan, you already know that it's going to be a huge cultural shift. Like, and so your part of your brain kind of prepares you for that and plans for it and thinks about it. But coming back kind of to Canada, I'm thinking probably felt like it's like, oh, that's going to be a walk in the park, and yet
yeah,
that's not what happened.
actually, it was harder. I had way more difficulty, and I've moved to different countries. I am from Holland originally, and I've lived in the United States and here in Montreal and in Japan, and then back to Montreal. And from all of these moves, this move from back from Japan to Montreal has been the most difficult, like mentally and emotionally, because, and I think the pandemic had a big part in that, just because I went to a place where everything was mostly open and we can still travel, and my life felt really big in comparison. And then here I was moving back to a place that I had already come from, and all of my other moves had been to new places.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't really anything new and exciting to explore. And on top of that, we were not allowed to explore anything because we were stuck at home.
Yeah.
So everything felt like it was sort of moving to, like, my world became very, very tiny and very, very small. So
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. I mean, I sort of think that too. And it's been interesting. The Artist Project was probably the first time kind of I'd been with a bunch of people. I've been living at the cottage. So it's like, my husband and I and the squirrels and the birds and whatever, right? So very, very small. But it's interesting that those are exactly the words that I thought too. I feel like my connections to people are getting more fragile, and you kind of have to get back into a different mindset of kind of reconnecting with all those people that have been friends for years, but you haven't seen for 2 years. And so much
yeah,
has changed in those 2 years.
exactly. So I felt a very strong need to reconnect to my life in Japan, to sort of keep, I just
Ground you.
need, yeah, and to sort of feel like my life was not just this little teeny tiny bubble. And I just, so the past 2 years I've just painted Japan. That's all I've done. And I've only just started doing something else. I'm right now I'm working on a series of paintings of I'm just working on the composition right now on the computer of New Zealand. I traveled to New Zealand in 2019, all the way like right when the pandemic was starting, like right when we because we flew from Tokyo to New Zealand over Hong Kong, I believe, and they already had the temperature scanners because we went in December, end of December, early January, and we spent New Year's in New Zealand that year, and already there were signs of this COVID thing happening, and there were like temperature scanners, and we were like, oh, it's another one of those Asian flu things. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Their masks and everything, they overreact to everything.
Exactly. Like, who cares? And I was already wearing a mask on the plane anyway, so I was like, it's fine. Who cares? So,
Yeah.
but I had never really had time to work with those images, and it was really funny because I started going through them, and I use a lot of people in my paintings. I always want sort of that human touch point, that sort of a thing to tell that story. I was going through my photographs. I spent like 2 freaking weeks in New Zealand, and I think I have like 2,000 or 3,000 photographs, and out of those 2,000 or 3,000 photographs, I have about 20 to 25 that have people in them. I was like, what? I didn't see any people.
Well, but sometimes when the landscape is so dramatic, and New Zealand, from what I've heard, is just so extraordinarily beautiful and dramatic, it kind of feels that you're trying to capture the scale. And I don't know, I do that too, because normally I like people as well. And then I come home sometimes, like when I went to BC as well, it's like everything's mountains, and there's no people to kind of personalize it somehow.
Yeah, it was funny. So I'm having a lot of difficulty with these new compositions to sort of figure that out and navigate where I still want people in there, but I don't have that many. And also, like New Zealand doesn't have that many like big cities or whatever. So I'm having to adjust and navigate that a little bit. So that's interesting.
I guess that's true, because most of your work is city based. I hadn't sort of consciously clued into that, but yeah.
Yeah, so
Cool.
it's going to be an interesting shift, and I'm enjoying that process of figuring that out and to sort of build and I'm trying to bring a little bit more nature in there, and which is interesting because I work mostly in black and white, and like nature, you want a lot of color usually in there. So it's
You're channeling Ansel Adams, I guess.
it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to work out. But I'm enjoying doing something else than Japan right now, which is good, I think.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. It almost feels like maybe it was a bit of therapy, like, and you're kind of like, now it's done its job, and you can now confidently move forward into something different.
Exactly, and it's not said that I won't go back there and come back to do some more Japan pieces, because I still have tons of photographs that I still want to work through. But in the meantime, I've also been to San Francisco, and I've been to Hawaii. So I have other places that I want to explore, and I also might want to, because we went back to Toronto, obviously, and there's a lot that changed there as well. Mm-hmm. So I want to do some more photographing there because so much has changed.
Yes, so it's actually funny because you already answered one of my questions. I was kind of thinking about, your whole brand is about the artist abroad, and yet you haven't been able to be abroad. You haven't been able to do anything, but obviously you have actually found a way to do some traveling.
Well, I'm very lucky. My husband works, he's the whole reason that we travel so much. He's an engineer, and he works project-based. So the reason why we first of all moved to the States was because his company moved him. And then they moved him to Montreal, so we came here. And then he changed companies, and he moved to Japan. And then recently he's changed companies multiple times, but all of them have been in Silicon Valley. So I had a chance he had to travel to Palo Alto, which is close to San Francisco, a couple of times. So at one of the occasions, I was like, what the heck, I'll just join him. Because, I mean, there was a whole bunch of testing, and I wouldn't, like, flying during a pandemic, it's not fun. Like, it's not great.
I can only imagine. I know. I was hibernating at the cottage, so I don't know. I didn't go anywhere.
No.
I missed it.
On the one hand, I was super happy that I got to travel, but I was also very aware of the fact that I was doing something that was maybe not the best of ideas, because I mean, we're still in a pandemic, and traveling, especially last year, was not like something that was very well advised. I was like, well, I need to make this decision. Do I or do I not go? But my husband had to go anyway.
So
So
the reality is, if he
risk-wise,
caught something, he would have,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So whether I would have or not, would not have gone wouldn't have made much of a difference risk-wise. And on the other hand, we were like, well, you know what? We don't know that many people here. We don't see any people. Like, honestly, my husband works at home. I work at home. We don't, for all intents and purposes, we don't have any friends. Well, we have very few of them, and we don't regularly see them. So
Yeah.
we're here, and
Yeah.
we're the risk of us like making somebody else sick is very, very small. So we just figured, oh well, we'll just go for it. So I spent some awesome time in rediscovering San Francisco last year, which was really awesome.
And so where's your next big chosen destination to kind of like that will kind of inform your art? Do you have like a bucket list of places you wanted to go?
I do. We just came back from, in May, we went 2 weeks to Hawaii, which was
nice.
a big bucket list item. We spent a week on Maui and a week on Kauai, which is not as city focused, but I still got some really good footage. There's some really like cute little towns, and they have great architecture. And well, I was venturing more into nature anyway. So and then my parents came to visit from Holland. They just left on Monday, so I got to go to Quebec City for a bit and explore.
That's
there.
Beautiful. Yeah,
that was awesome. Yeah, and we drove up to Tadoussac, which was really, really nice, which is a little bit farther north. It's a little tiny town. So yeah, our next destination, probably, well, I have to go to Vancouver in September for the IDS show. So that's the next thing on the calendar. But travel wise, we still have so many places in Asia that we want to visit. We had a plan in 2020 to go to Singapore. We were supposed to go in March of 2020, and obviously that didn't happen. So that's still on the list. And we have some other places. We still want to see Bangkok. We still haven't really been to China. We had plans to go see the Great Wall of China while we were in Japan, but that didn't happen. And we still want to go to Australia. We still want to go to Fiji because we dive. A friend of ours is now in Bali, which looks amazing.
Ooh, that sounds beautiful.
Like, yeah, and we're scuba divers, so Bali is like high on our list as well. So we have quite a big list of places. Australia.
And do you ever do underwater photography? Like if you scuba dive in places like Fiji, I'm assuming you could see some awesome stuff.
We have a little camera, but not a good one. So I haven't really like ventured out in good photography underwater.
Right.
Maybe I should. I just bought an artwork actually from an artist in Kauai, in a tiny gallery there that has it's funny because I saw it in the gallery, and it's sea turtles, but it's photos of sea turtles, but on a little like piece of wood, but like sort of you see the rough edges of the wood, like the bark and everything. And it turns out it's created in a similar technique that I use. It's
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah. I saw it and I was like, I really love that. So I bought it. I had to buy it.
Well, it's always good to support local artists.
It is.
You should never have to apologize for that.
No, it's true.
And so you're heading down to the IDS. Do you find that kind of that interior design market is a good market for you?
I didn't hear you. You froze.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I was just saying you're heading down to the IDS. So I was just wondering if the interior design market was a good market for you.
It's my first time doing these shows this year. I did IDS in Toronto in, what was it, April, I think? Yeah, I think it was back in April. 2 weeks before the Artist Project, I did it. It was very different from the Artist Project. The conversations were very different. It's a very different type of public. IDS Toronto supposedly is very different again from the Vancouver show, because in Vancouver apparently there's a lot more artists there, and it's a little more geared towards the local market, whereas the Toronto show is like the national show. So they get all the big brands. They get like Miele and like all the big like interior design brands. So therefore, except for me, there was one other artist there. And it was not the type of show where people buy off the wall, because they're not there to buy. Like all the booths there, they're not selling anything directly. They're just showing their product. So they're showing like wall tiles and floor tiles and like bathrooms and showers and stuff like that, you know. But they're all people that like buy like super duper high end stuff. So, and they're all people that are like having their condo or their house designed and it's still being built. So they're looking at artwork, but it's all sort of like a long term. So most of the people that I met there, it's all like, oh, contact me in August and we can do something. And it's a more custom work. Like almost everybody there that I met there were like, oh, we want something like this, but we want this and that.
Our own personal one. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it looks like there will be a lot of custom work coming from that, but it requires a little bit more like work afterwards. You have to keep in touch with the people and keep poking them and be like, hey, remember me? We talked about this painting thing, and then they're like, yeah, but my condo is delayed, so I haven't seen it yet.
That's right. It'll be a year and a half.
Yeah, but I'm interested.
So do you find preparing?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was gonna say, do you find preparing then for a show like that is different than preparing for the artist project? Like, is your elevator pitch different? Is your marketing different, or you just kind of feel it along the way?
I make sure that I brought larger work just because I knew it was so my way I designed was really geared towards a higher end market. So the paintings were there larger and more custom. And I designed a catalog, so like an actual like glossy sort of catalog thing that shows all instead of having a portfolio. I had a catalog that shows what I've done, and it had like the prices for things you can buy and stuff like that to give it a more professional look, I guess. It's not, you don't want to come over as an artist, you more want to come over as sort of a business or a luxury item.
Right.
So in that sense, it was a little different, but not too much. I'm still me, and I'm still. I mean, as an artist, you're always selling a product. So that's just how I approach my business anyway. Mm-hmm. But I did find that the conversations I had.
Yeah, and I just want to apologize. I think my Wi-Fi is screwing up, so I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if everybody else is having a hard time hearing as well.
I don't know.
And am I frozen?
No, you're not.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out if it's my Wi-Fi, but I thought I turned my Wi-Fi off. I don't know. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll try.
You're frozen. If I definitely said I should have
okay.
Wi-Fi, but if I do that, I have like 0 cell reception here, so that's not a good idea.
Well, yeah, so it's hard to know if it's you or me, because I think I also have not great cell reception up here either. So that's kind of my challenge too. I'm fine, Kate. It's Denise. So why don't maybe if you can get off and get back on again, that might help. What do you think?
I can try. I can also try moving, because I remember last time that worked.
Okay.
I'll see if I.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. Although we changed the Wi-Fi reception since last time, and I don't usually have problems, but let me go sit here.
Oh, that seems pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. Let's sit here then. Change the background.
Okay. All right. That looks awesome.
Next to the router, so.
Okay, so I would love to ask you that question again, because I only heard part of it, and I think it was kind of interesting in terms of how your marketing changed doing something like the IDS show, which is more designer and long-term focused, versus the artist project, which is more collector and take it off the wall focused.
Yeah. Well, my marketing didn't change that much. I did create a different type of booth layout. So I brought larger works for a more high-end market. And then on top of that, I created a catalog, which gives it a more high-end look. It's more like a luxury product in that sense. So my catalog showed all of the work that I've created over the years, and then the sold pieces, it said sold. So it also shows sort of it gives people the idea that you're successful as an artist, right? If you show like, oh, this piece is already sold, and the sold pieces are sold as prints as well, so people would have been able to purchase prints right off, like out of the catalog. And it sort of is nice to be able to say to people, because you only have like a small selection on your wall, and then they're like, oh, but
Right.
I would like something more like this or that. And now you could say, well, let me show you this, you know? And because I did feel it was more that type of a show, because there was more of a that I want something custom, that it was nice to have examples of other things that you've done over the years, that you could say, oh, but I've done this. At one point I had a couple, and they had she was from Holland originally, and she was like, oh, don't you have any Amsterdam? And I was like, well, I did, but they've been sold, but it looks like this. And then they were like, oh, we might want something like that for our future condo. So it's a good sales tool.
Right.
So
And so do you make,
oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, do you make prints of all your work, or just kind of the ones that you sell quickly or get good attention, or how do you make that decision?
I do it for the larger pieces mostly. Although that's not quite true either. I recently switched my because I used to do small prints, and I don't do those anymore. I made a decision to for only a specific body of work, and I then pick three print sizes for each painting. So 25%, 50%, and 100% of the painting, the original size of the painting. And then the smaller ones is 25 maximum. The medium size is 15 prints maximum, and the largest size is 10 prints maximum. So limited edition.
Right. Oh, that
And
sounds
that's
good.
what I went with. Yeah, it's I haven't really sold any yet, but that's what I went with.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
just a random decision.
I'm just dipping my toe into. It's been rolling around my head for like 5 years. I just can't seem to quite pull the trigger on actually making prints. So I'm always curious if there's like, maybe if I ask enough people, there'll be a really super easy way to do it. But there isn't.
I did small ones before, like 10 by 15. But first of all, my work shows better on a larger size. The small ones, I think I sold them for $35, and it's just way too much work for me anyway. I felt it was too much work for the amount of work that I had to put in, and also you have to keep stock of all those small things. These larger ones, I'm doing them by order, so and people don't expect to pick up like a larger size print right away. And it's specifically stated that it's all made to order, so I don't want to do a whole bunch of stock anymore. It's just
I know, I hear what you're saying, and it was interesting because I was listening to a session on branding with Benny Bing the other day, and that's one of the things he said is if you're going to do things that are outside of your actual original painting, then you need to really think about that, like how much time it's going to take not only to produce them but to ship them and to mail them and to communicate, and and when you add all that stuff in, sometimes it's hard to make money on those things.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at it price-wise, like if I would order one of those small prints at the printer, they would cost for printing cost like around maybe $2, $2.50 or something, but they ship them through UPS. So whether I buy one or I buy 10 or I buy 50, I always pay $15 shipping.
Right.
So you're not going to buy one. You're always going to buy more. But that means I'm stuck with a whole bunch of prints that I might not sell.
Mm-hmm. And that you have to keep in pristine condition, and they can't get wrinkled or worn or torn or anything like that. I know. It just feels like way more stress than just producing another original piece of art.
And then I through a gallery, so out of the $35, you get $17.50. And if you add up the costs, and of course, it's not just to print, right? You also have to put a piece of foam board. You have to print like a little certificate for it. You have to get a nice plastic sleeve for it to go into. That is a huge amount of extra cost.
Yeah.
And all in all, it's not a lot if you count it up. But if you only get $17.50 per print, it's not, you only like make a couple of bucks, right? And I just didn't feel that was worth my time.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
So that's why.
And so, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think you really have to look at it as not just being a throwaway. Like, it has to be something that's actually going to build the revenue into your art business, right?
Exactly. So I felt this was a better way, better time investment. And I just feel, in general, I've started to. I really spent the last year and a half looking at the way I run my business and thinking about where I need to spend my time. And I just feel that a lot of my time is better spent in the studio creating art as opposed to doing all the little tiny things on the side.
Yeah. Well, you're right, because you're the only person that can do that.
Well, yeah, and I get asked to teach sometimes, and I'm like, you know what? It's not worth my time. First of all, I don't enjoy doing it, so that's the other thing. But then,
well, I think that's the biggest reason not to do it then.
Well, yeah, exactly. But sometimes I'm like, oh well, it's just to help somebody out, and support the gallery or whatever. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm not enjoying this. I don't make a lot of money out of it, and my time is just better spent making art.
Yeah.
Or doing all the 5,000 other things that you need to do to run your business.
Yeah, or figuring out what you can. I think this is always the classic, right? Figuring out what you can outsource, how you can outsource, and at what point in your business do you start to outsource that stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, I don't know if anyone has the magic formula for that one. I think we'd all love to know.
Oh yeah, I'm first in line. Sign me up.
Yeah, there should be like an artist calculator. Like put in how many hours you spend, all this kind of stuff. Oh, yep, I've hit the number. Now I'm going to hire somebody to do all that crap for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's hard. It's always a juggle, doing all the stuff that you need to do, like especially the social media shit. Like, oh my God, like I try to I post every day, but I create all my posts on Monday. Ideally a Monday morning, but
that's smart.
I schedule everything beforehand, and then I sometimes post organically, and then on top of that, you have to do I send out weekly emails. So once a month, I spend a day writing 4 emails.
Right.
Plus doing 7 days of posts. But it gets tiring, or it gets annoying at one point. I'm like, I'd rather just sit in my studio, create paintings that feels more productive than spending half a day writing a nice blurby with a nice picture to post on Instagram. That doesn't feel productive.
Well, I think the other thing too is that in order to touch people, it has to kind of be authentic. And exactly. And I feel there's a fine line between how much stuff you really want to share about what you're doing and what your personal life is about. And then sometimes I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, but then it's like, well, then new people see it. So I don't know, if you're not careful, you can go down to this rabbit hole of overthinking as well.
It's true. And on the one hand, that's what people like. They want to see what's behind the scenes. They want to see a little bit into your personal life. But yeah, you're right. How much do you want to share? I'm a very positive person by nature, and I really dislike people complaining about shit all the time. So I
Me too.
specifically choose to be a positive force on the social media networks. So I will not. I don't like complaining about things, and I don't like projecting any negativity. So I just choose to always put something positive, which for some people they're like, are you for real? And I'm like, yeah, that's just me. When I was in high school, I would have to ride my bike through the school to put it in the bike rack, and our concierge would regularly tell me that it would always make him happy because I was always smiling. when I came in. And
Oh,
that's
that's
just the
nice.
type of person that I am. I just
Yeah.
choose to look at the happy things in life.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's probably what helped me get through COVID, in a relatively healthy frame of mind. I mean, not to say we all have damages from COVID. That was such a
Oh
traumatic
yeah.
experience, but I think the same thing, like, I only like to paint when I'm feeling joyful. And there's some times when it actually takes quite an effort to get yourself into that mindset, but fundamentally that's just really healthy for you. And
Yeah.
then when I'm just feeling really pissy, then I just go and bitch at my sister for an hour and I feel so much better.
Well, it helps.
It does. Venting is always good.
Yeah, it helps. On
Yeah.
social media, I'd rather choose it. I'll vent to my husband.
Yeah. I think we might be missing your Wi-Fi again, so you might have to move around a bit.
I'll go sit right next to the router. See if I can make it any closer to the router.
Just sit right on the router. Yeah.
I'm on the router right now.
That's awesome. So I see that you also sell your work through Saatchi Art and Singular Art, sort of online platforms. Is that something that you spend a lot of your time on, trying to figure out strategically how to do that, or was that a bit of a try it and see what happens? Or
I actually changed all my single art ones to not available right now, just because I feel that I wanted to. Okay, well, the thing is, I had like 5 or 6 of those platforms, and it was taking so much time. So every one of those, you have to set up this whole thing, right? And you have to regularly post, because they're all based on how regularly you put something new on. Because if you don't regularly put something new on there, you're not in front of the thing. So
it's a waste of time.
Yeah, exactly. So I picked Single Art because that's a more curated platform. It's actually by invitation. As opposed to Single Art, where everybody, as opposed to Saatchi Art, where everybody can just make a profile. So I felt that was a better place to spend my time. I've also made quite a few sales through them, 5 so far since I've been with them, which is not bad for an online platform like that. Also, in addition, Single Art is based in Europe, so it gives me most of their traffic comes from Europe. So it gives me an outlet in Europe where I'm not actively based.
Right.
And then Saatchi Art right now, I only use as an augmented reality tool, weirdly enough, because because you can project your artwork in a physical room through their system. So
that's cool.
So I use it as a tool. So I have all my artwork uploaded on there. But it's not for sale. It's just if people want to buy it through there, they're gonna have to contact me directly, and it's still a possibility. But I mainly use it as a tool right now.
And do you sell just your originals or your prints through there?
Just originals.
Because so you have to keep track of where they are in the inventory and make sure you have them at home. Then if they're going to obviously be online.
I really dislike their Saatchi's print on demand type thing, because you cannot. I like to keep everything in my own hands. I like to be the boss of my stuff, and I don't like the idea of.
So optimistic and a control monger.
Yeah, this is true.
I get that.
But yeah, I don't like. I understand that it's easy to have your stuff on there and for people to just be able to buy a print and you don't have to touch it. But I want all my prints to be limited edition, and therefore I want all my prints to be signed and come with a certificate of authenticity, which means I'd like to do that myself, and I'd like to be able to touch them myself. So I therefore I don't like their system.
No, that's good information. No, it's good.
Yeah.
It's always hard to there's so many options out there now too, and so it's hard to sometimes figure out what's the best way to go.
Yeah, well, it's personal, right? For if you like if you don't care about it being limited and you just want an easy source of income, then that's totally fair.
Yeah, or maybe doing a separate body of work that's designed for that, which is a different thing than maybe your original pieces that are kind of touching a different target market.
I just tend to be a little picky.
That's all good. That's all good. That's part of the success, right? I mean, and your art's your baby, right? Like, I think it makes sense for you to be picky about it. That's
Yeah, it's
it's
true. And
personal.
yeah, and I really for me quality is really important. It's important in the art that I create, but it's also important in all the secondary merchandise that I would create for my art or with my art. So,
And what stuff is that?
well, the prints or like
Yeah.
a catalog or a book or whatever. If I
And do you
make
do things
something,
like scarves or whatever? I could just totally see your Japanese ones being really beautiful
I've
scarves.
done them. But it's similar to having the prints. It's something that you would have to have in stock, and especially if like the galleries want to have them, they're hugely expensive to produce. They're
Mm-hmm.
very, very expensive. So it's just a lot of money up front.
Right.
I am right now actually working on a limited edition run of shirts for an upcoming solo exhibition in Toronto.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah, so that's something that I'm doing just as a sort of like a fun thing, for like a special little thing for this solo exhibition at this gallery that I'm doing in October. And we decided that it would be cool to have like 3 or 4 different designs and do like a limited edition of shirts specifically
That'll
for
be
that
fun.
show.
Well,
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing that.
me too.
Yeah. So I just also wanted to make sure we had enough room to talk about your collaborations, and not only the one you're doing as part of the International Artists Alliance, which is super cool,
Yeah,
but also on your website, it looks like you've done collaborations with quite a few other artists. Is that just
I
something that you
have.
kind of just get a kick out of?
I love doing them, and they've all been things that have sort of happened. Um, it's not something I specifically go out of my way searching for, but I do enjoy them when they happen.
Mm-hmm.
I just think collaborations are difficult, it really depends on the people you are working with, and especially in a group like the International Art Alliance. We're 7 in total, or officially 6 now, and I'm sure when there's a larger group like that, it's difficult to keep everybody involved in the same to the same level,
Yeah.
and to make sure everybody puts in the same amount of effort, and you don't have people that are sort of sailing on other people's efforts, because I think
Yeah.
that's something that many artists, that's an idea that many artists have, that if they get into a collaboration, then they will have to do all the work, and that's not how it's supposed to be. But especially with a larger group like we are having now, it's sometimes difficult to get everybody on the same level. But I do feel that after we've done this for about 6 months, that it's very clear that that everybody has different skill sets, but all of those skill sets are being actively used to propel the project forward. And it's really nice
Mm-hmm.
to see that everybody is really excited and really loves working on this project, and we're all super gung-ho about investing our own time in and figuring stuff out for on different levels. And it's so nice to have other people, and like I'm sort of the tech person, so I figure out most of the tech stuff. But then Rose, for example, is super good at like we were looking for a gallery space in the Vancouver area, and she has a lot of experience with that, and she's also very experienced with the searching for grants and stuff. So it's really nice to be able to just say, oh, Rose, can you like figure that out? Or I wrote this piece of text, and Ross is super good with text, so I'm like, Ross, can you oh, he wrote this really nice blurby, can we use your blurby, Ross? Yes, of course you can use my blurby.
Yeah.
So
Well, what's interesting.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's nice.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what I was going to say, what's interesting to me too is that the work is so different. Like each artist has a very very different color palette and style and mark making, and so that's going to be really cool too, because in the final piece you're really going to be able to identify I think obviously everyone's thinking it's going to come and look like a cohesive piece, but you're going to be able to identify each artist's contributions, which I think sounds like it'll be really cool.
Yeah, and what's really, really interesting, I find, is that because we each started one of these paintings with the same theme. And initially, we were talking about, oh, I am working on Ross's piece, or I'm working on Stephanie's piece. But now, after many of them have had like 4, 5, 6 layers, they're becoming their own thing. And it's actually better for us and easier for us to just say, oh, I'm working on painting A, B, C, or D. Because they're not the moment the painting I started painting G, and the moment painting G left my studio, it was not mine anymore. It's all of it's its own individual being almost, and it's going on this adventure by itself with its own little passport and its own little paperwork, and it's gaining experience along the way. It's going on all these adventures to Vancouver and Rhode Island and LA and Australia and the UK, and it's getting experience and being changed by its travels like along the way, and it'll have this whole story to tell and have its own identity by the end of it, which is really, really cool.
That's very cool. I'm wondering too if it becomes a little bit easier to not have to worry about stepping on toes and egos if it does become less connected to a person or a artist versus a G.
Definitely.
Definitely. I can totally see the approach of it would be kind of like, okay, this is what I've got in front of me. I'm super excited to work on it, as opposed to it was Stephanie's. I want to make sure I don't disrespect what she's put on.
I'm fairly certain it's not my internet. Yeah.
I know, and I don't know if it's you or me, so I'm like, I'm just going to babble for a bit.
Yeah, that's what I did. I don't know who they heard, but no, I was going to say that it's really funny because we have all had these emotions where we felt like we didn't want to step on any toes. But we recently discussed this actually, and we came to the conclusion that there's no risk of anybody stepping on anybody's toes, because it hasn't happened so far, and we're like a good ways into this project, and we are all very considerate people, and we all are on the same page when it comes to how we approach each layer and how we want to make sure that the things that we add make sense within the initial idea and the initial what the initial artist set up for that particular painting. So I don't think there is that risk of and I think we had also discussed that we needed to step out of that mindset, and therefore it is better to look at these paintings as individuals as opposed to Stephanie's painting or Ross's painting. And it's really funny because I had to make this shift in my mind, that initially when I started working on the first time I worked on somebody else's work, I felt this need I was like, oh, if I do something, it needs to be something Denise. I need to insert my artistic, like it needs to be something
brand,
photography or it needs to be transfer or whatever. And it doesn't, because that's not the point of this project. The point of this project is me as an artist adding something to this painting that benefits this painting. And whether that is a single dot of oil paint that I never work with, or it is I don't know, I put a bit of washi paper in there the other day, like in one of them. And I mean, I work with washi paper, but not like I did with that painting. And that's the moment that I realized that in this project, you have the freedom to do whatever you want, basically, to just be an artist and to look at what other people have done, to look at the idea behind that particular painting, to see the stage that it's in, to see what everybody else has added. Everybody will write why they did what they did, and feel for yourself what your contribution needs to be. And if that contribution is 2 or 3 little dots, then that's fine. It doesn't need to be, you don't, we all make sure that we know like to make a huge impact, because that's not what it's about. It's about that you have to add something that you feel is your addition to this painting.
Right.
So that,
and
yeah.
at the end of the day, it's a huge impact on because of all of the pieces that are collaborated together.
In your brain, that doesn't always work that way. Initially, our thoughts are all a little different, and I think we're now at a point where we are feeling more freedom to just go with the flow, and it's definitely helped seeing these paintings all as individual beings.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to seeing those final pieces.
We do.
And I guess Ross is the last.
Every single time, it's exciting.
Yeah, I bet getting those packages and opening them up sounds like it'd be really, really fun.
Yeah, well, and it's cool because we do these little live shows every Thursday at 3:30 p.m. on Facebook, and we open these paintings live on screen, so people can see our reaction, and then we talk a little bit about what happened and why people did what they did, and so people will be able to follow along the entire project, which is really great.
Oh, that's awesome. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to make sure I capture that. Well, believe it or not, we're almost out of time. So
I know.
As you know from the last interview, I always like to end up my interviews with, if time and money were no option, what's your big hairy ass goal?
My hairy ass goal right now, my hairy ass goal would still be to spend all of my time in my studio as opposed to doing all the other shit that comes with being an artist.
Except the time when you're traveling, right?
Well, yeah. Ideally, I would just travel the world and then create art and then not have to bother with anything else.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Pretty good life. Okay, well, thank you so much. I really appreciated your chat, and I really loved, actually, especially the conversation about the mindset of getting into the mindset of collaboration. So I think that was very insightful, and I really appreciated that honesty.
Well, thank you. It was
so thanks a lot.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having all of us.
Oh, I've so enjoyed it. I mean, I'm a sucker for this stuff. The only reason I do Talking to Artists is because I just love to learn from other people, and it's a great way to do it. And I guess we've got Ross is the last artist. He's the sixth one, so we'll be interviewing him next week. Exciting. So that would be really cool. Yeah. Okay, well, have an awesome day, and hopefully we will see you around.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Welcome back. That was really awesome. I really enjoyed that conversation with Kate a couple of weeks ago. I want to thank Kate again for having all of us on her lovely show. And I want to please follow Kate if you like this conversation. She has tons of other conversations with artists. And of course, she talked to Rose and Cheryl and Lara and Stephanie before me. And in 2 weeks, we will show you her interview with the amazing Ross C. Berman. I can't wait for that. So in the meantime, next week we will be back with the full group. Hopefully, we will be back to our regular scheduled show. We will hopefully have some more paintings for us to unbox, for you to view. And we have just started our large panels, so I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about, because this is basically like starting a whole new project. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye!